Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your Washington Commanders update, and we are doing this training camp style. I am your host, Candi CWall Waller, and it is a pleasure to be joining you all yet again to talk about the Burgundy and Gold Washington Commanders. If you are new to Bowie TV and watching the Washington Commanders update, Coaching from the Couch series, welcome. It is amazing to have you here, and I hope you stay for a very long time and ensure that you are subscribed to this channel. If you are returning, welcome back. You already know what time it is with me. I'm here to give you my version of transparency of what has gone on so far in this training camp season. We're at the top of training camp, so it's not but so much that can go on per se, but there's still enough for me to check in with you all and give you all exclusive insights on training camp day one. If you're watching on television, Verizon Channel 77, Comcast Xfinity Channel 77. Hello to you as well. Trust me, we try to cover all of our bases with all of our viewers. We may as well get into it, shall we? Yes, indeed, we shall. So I'm starting off with training camp day one. But as you all know by now, there was a press conference. Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, and all of the other NFL teams as well, before they start off with official training camp season, the team has a press conference and shares basically, they may do an opening statement as general manager Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn did, and they just take questions from the media. And, hey, some things are totally, of course, public information. Others across other teams may be completely off the record. But we were able to have the official press conference. And I definitely want to dig into that first before we get into training camp one. You all know I tend to tell the kind of order of things in a story so you can feel like you were there. So we're going to go through each part of this and discuss the entire thing just to, kind of go in the order of things because I like it that way, kind of like storytelling, if you will. And so, let's start with the presser. Overall, just some things that I would share, and I'm going to get into some of the questions that I asked head coach Dan Quinn. They're excited. They're really excited. If you have not watched that presser, I definitely encourage you to do so. They are absolutely excited. This is a new experience for them. This is something yet again where not just general manager Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn have to prove themselves. Everybody in the room has to prove themselves. Everybody's starting 0-0. So at this point, it's like everybody has an opportunity starting, just building up into week one. So this is an exciting time for everybody. Everyone's getting a clean slate to make it happen. One of the things, I'm already jumping to training camp day one because we had that much fun watching it. But one of the things that, Terry McLaurin shared in his presser, it's not about what you did last year. You already are starting from a clean slate. You're building that identity, that foundation, all of that right now. And right now, Commanders fans, I don't know, comment in the chat. It is an exciting time to be a Commanders fan. Even if you're not necessarily a fan of the Washington Commanders and you're just an onlooker, listen, it's just a lot that is happening. A lot is changing, all good things. So let's get into it. Why don't we go into, from the official start of training camp press conference, the first question that I asked head coach Dan Quinn. Candi Waller, Bowie TV. This one is for you, Coach Quinn. Reflecting on OTAs, was there anything that you said, you know what, that didn't work out so well? Maybe we won't do too much more of that, or something that went really well and said we got to do more of that?
All right, Candi, good. That is a good question. You're really making me think. I like it, Candi. Give me a second. Things that I definitely liked going through the spring. We took time before we got to football with the, not just the free agents that came or the veterans that were here, to get to know the man before the ball player. And I think that was an important process. So much as a coach, you just want to get right into the football and finding out somebody's why, more of their background, what do they stand for, why were some of the things important. I would say that's a good lesson, in building something. From a leadership standpoint, early on, I think in my life, I thought how is it me leading others? And what I found out through processes is real leading takes place when you can identify and develop the leaders within themselves. And so I'm pleased with what we're seeing in that spot. I'm hopeful at the end of camp you ask me, hey, Dan, who are the leaders? And your hand cramps because I'm listing so many players. Things that I wish I could do differently as you're going to go, probably those are more like practice oriented. Could I have added more or less into it? I think one of the real fun things for everybody to watch is the addition of some special teams plays this year. And I know it's been a story of the off season, but I was pleased with the amount of work that we put in, but time will tell if it was enough work, Candi. So those are the things that I stress myself out and can't sleep at night. So thanks for bringing it back up. That's good.
Yeah.
Definitely did not mean to stress Coach out with something that was keeping him up at night. But hey, listen, it's a question that you want to know. There's lessons learned in every stage of this, right? As a leader, as a leader myself, in watching how they maneuver and what they really emphasize as one of the pillars of who they are and what they want to be, they are taking those lessons, learning from them, and they're moving in a different way. And I thought it was important to say, hey, because that OTA period was their first time together. What are some reflective moments? How does that, and then potentially even be able to see as training camp goes on, how that looks different, right? So I'm taking my notes, you all. I'm taking my notes so that I can come back and share with you all these exclusive insights. Let me move on to my next question that was based on something that we discussed on a previous episode during OTAs. Okay, well, that leads to my next question. My next question is about special teams. We saw some variety in the kick return, punt return role during OTAs. What are the characteristics you're looking for in that particular role?
Yeah, I think right now I see them a little bit differently because punt return is pretty traditional in the way of catch, initial quickness to make one miss. So if somebody was coming to have the ability to make one go, that type of change of direction and hands to go. Oftentimes they're fielding everything above them and they have to make one miss to get 6 to 7 yards. That's a good return usually if I can make one go. On the kickoff return, I think it's going to be a little bit different because it may involve more true running skills, running back skills. And so time will tell, but I do feel like the two positions are different because in a punt return, I may just make one miss, who are the gunners usually outside, but literally anybody could be coming on the new way that kickoff and kickoff return is going. So that part I do feel is going to be different, but they may even have to be more adept at fielding a kick that comes and hits the ground first, as opposed to forever we've just seen kickoffs come from the air and we catch, we want to be on the move. There may be a player that has to play infield as well as outfield, and the shortstop and center field. And so that kick returner this year better be adept at both.
So let me share this with you all. Training camp day one, and I am now going on, drum roll please, this year is 7 years that I've covered the Washington Commanders. So my time and actually covering them on site dates back to Richmond training camp days in that heat, because Richmond heat is a little different. So I know when it's like shooting periods or you can take photos of this, you can take photos of that. Today we were unable to, for a portion of the time, film special teams. And here's what I noticed. Because of the different rules with the kickoff, and again, this is exclusive insights with CWall, Bowie Television. And if you've watched my show, let me add this. If you've been watching me for years, you know that I am a special teamer. I really get into just the uniqueness in the role of that overall group. There's always so much emphasis on offense and defense, rightfully so. But why is special teams like the forgotten about opportunity to score? Or just the forgotten about opportunity to get down the field. I mean, that's like a free opportunity to just move the football. So during OTAs, again, looking at my notes, reminding myself about OTAs, she saw the variety. We saw that this could definitely be an area of emphasis they're going to pay attention to, just like the others. I have not experienced where they've said, oh, well, you can't shoot special teams. Normally, always can shoot that. That lets me know that there's something going on. It's something good. It's something that is going to be efficient and effective, and something that they don't want to allow their competitive advantage to potentially to be leaked, just to be honest, right? For lack of a better term at this time. So I'm excited about that. I said, oh, very good. Thank you. Because if you all really think about, maybe you don't see it so much during the regular season, but definitely during the playoffs, you will see a team put often their fastest player, their best player, and depending on the situation, they're going to mix it up a bit when it comes to that kick return. They're going to make something shake when it comes to that. So I definitely just wanted to know if what I saw is really what I saw. And yes, it was. And just his thoughts on it. And I thought it was a very educational moment for me. I learned a lot from Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn is very smart, as is Adam Peters. I really enjoy their press conferences, and I hope you all do too. Drop a love emoji or a thumbs up if you agree. So far, so good in that area. Now, let's move on to training camp day one. Yes, everybody, you all know I'm going to get to Jaden Daniels. You all know I'm going to get into the quarterbacks. But first, I do not think that was the story of training camp day one. I think the story of training camp day one is that Johnny Newton has been cleared to practice. He has been, like Dan Quinn said, he's back. So I have several clips here of Dan Quinn sharing in his opening press conference before practice start on talking about Johnny Newton being cleared, as well as Efe Obada having to be placed on the physically unable to perform list because he is still rehabbing his injury from last season. Take a look.
You won't see him in some of the teamwork today, like we had discussed yesterday, but we'll follow along that process. But that was some great news. He has absolutely busted his ass to do everything he can to get ready. So what a great sign for him. On the second transaction, F.A. will be on PUP as he's still coming back from his injury and making progress, but that's how we'll start the camp. What you'll see at practice today from emphasis is going to be a lot of red zone. And I touched on that yesterday, but as we're starting, the training camp to go, good bit of red zone work. So most all of the team things that you'll see today will have a red zone emphasis with it.
And we'll get into some of that red zone emphasis in a moment. Here's some more on what head coach Dan Quinn had to say on Johnny Newton.
Hey, Dan, with Johnny, how much has this helped him be able to come off right away because he missed so much of the spring, and what are the plans for him moving forward?
One, we're pleased that it was now. In my head, I thought it would be later, but just because of the progress he made, we were able to speed some of that up, so that was good to see. Think of the first little bit of his training camp that's his off-season training, the technique work to go, then get into practice and then go. So we're playing where we got some space and some runway to make sure he doesn't miss one step of his development.
Now, if I was surprised, then I was really surprised to know that Dan Quinn was surprised as well. So this was what I think we can all agree on. Thumbs up and heart emojis in the comment section that this is a very good thing. I was really not even looking for Johnny Newton at all until maybe like the end of training camp. So this is really exciting news for the Washington Commanders. Really is. I think in a previous episode, matter of fact, I remember now distinctly that I shared a picture on one of the episodes. I think it was from Rookie, the day one of Rookie minicamps. You could go back and check out that episode from Bowie TV extraordinaire photographer and videographer Darrell Lee Owens Sr. A picture from him of Johnny Newton. Almost called him Johnny Davis. See, this is the wizard stuff too. Commanders. Johnny Newton being on the sideline of rookie camp, totally just not happy. He just looked very unhappy and upset. And we noticed the boot and we said, wow, Johnny looks really sad. He looks really, really sad. He definitely wants to be out there with his teammates. And guess what? Today he was. But before we move on to the next topic, because, hey, this was really big news today. Here's more on what head coach Dan Quinn had to say on Johnny Newton returning to practice.
Hi, Dan. When did Johnny have his most recent physical that he passed?
Yesterday.
Okay.
Afternoon.
And how much can that help, especially a rookie, just getting acclimated to everything and being involved from the jump of training camp? How much can that help him?
It can help a lot. He's so ready to go. He's got such a prove-it mentality to him that what it's assuring is that there's no missteps along the way. We're hopeful that he could get back soon, and so to have it now and all the night walkthroughs and all the install that goes with that, that's a big deal. And so we're really pumped that he's able to start with us. He's really worked hard at it.
He will participate in the walkthroughs as well. Okay.
He's back.
He's back. Now let's get into practice, shall we?
I love you.
I am committed to playing bags every single episode. I'm just kidding. Probably won't do it every single episode, you all. But it was training camp day one. So I think it was important to play it today. Hope you all agree. Another thing I want to mention before we get into some practice specifics. For the first couple of closed practices, Washington Commanders' immediate family members are able to attend practice. I think this is an extraordinary gesture by the team, Adam Peters and Dan Quinn. And everybody has probably heard by now, and Coach Quinn mentioned this as well, that the team is staying off-site. And some of the players talked about that as well in terms of what that means to what they're building. Building a team is hard. Thumbs up, heart emoji in the chat if you have been a leader and tried to lead building a team, or been one of the leaders in trying to build a team and build a culture. It is difficult. And they have a short period of time to show that they're doing that in an outcome-oriented way, right? What does that mean in an outcome-oriented way? Meaning winning football games, right? Which they have to do here in a few weeks. So to see the amount of effort that is going into building that camaraderie with the players, because here's what I can tell you I'm not forgetting, is that the team was like last in that survey amongst players. I mean, I'm not trying to bring up old stuff, but that survey is given out every year. And the Washington Commanders got an F-. I didn't know an F- was possible, but it is because the team got one. So it is very important for this organization to, in a very, again, outcome-oriented, results-driven way, show that they are making improvements. We know about the new field, different new amenities, allowing their families, immediate family members, to be engaged early on, them staying off site to build that team and that camaraderie. These are all things, among other things. I'm not naming everything, right? But these are all things that attribute to what that grade is and how the players will rate the organization. So I think that is important to note. I can assure you all, I will be tracking that as well. All right. I'm going to be tracking the F- decrease. We got to get that down to the lower part of the alphabet, really. So I want you all to know, if you don't already know, that I believe they're making some great headway, really. And I thought that was an important point to note. So I know you all are probably like, okay, CWall, get right to it. What are the quarterbacks up to? Listen, it's day one. Okay. It's day one. The quarterbacks are doing fine. Everybody's doing fine, actually, for day one. The red zone work, if you saw one of my posts on one of the platforms, be it X or Facebook, then you saw me say, wow, I feel like I'm watching a Cliff Kingsbury special featuring Jaden Daniels. You can tell he's been in the playbook. You can tell they've all been in the playbook. Everybody seems to be moving along the same trajectory of competition, building that camaraderie, fighting to get a roster spot, because let's be clear, it's a fight to get a roster spot, and just being good, right? And then the other thing is, I'm watching at practice people that love football. Oh, they love it. There's no other place they'd rather be. This isn't boring to them at all. They're not, they are fully engaged in practice. I think about when I shared with you all at the end of OTAs, where I felt like this is the last day of practice. I mean, they're practicing. Is there a game on Sunday? Because this feels very intense. And it was. Today, it's just, because they're starting and they have a plan of how they're going to ramp up. We all know this. And of course, there's no pads yet. But the overall energy, and you heard the Dan Quinn and Anna Peters, they talked about that, right? The energy that was coming in the room, in the building when the guys were arriving, when their rookies arrived. I think that was late last week. And when the veterans arrived the other day, and you can tell this is a group that wants to play football and wants to win as a result of playing this football, and they're building that relationship. The quarterbacks are doing fine. Jaden Daniels, definitely. Hey, I'm going to go back to, without giving any details, because I want to be careful about the details that I do. I'm giving exclusive insights, but I do want to be careful about some of the things that I do share. But Cliff Kingsbury is certainly creative. And I'm smiling here because I was standing next to two of my media colleagues. Some of you know very well, Lake Lewis and Felix Trammell. And I had to almost like, whoa, did y'all see that coming? Because I know I was watching this play develop, and that I did. Hey, wow, Coach Cliff Kingsbury. And if you all know Felix made a comment that said, now I wouldn't have had that on my bingo card. No, did not see that coming. I like the creativity. It's very good. And the pace is fast. Because, hey, it is what it is. If it's Sunday on game day, you got to make a move and you got to score. You got to get in there. You got to make a move and get in there. And so more to come. It's just day one. And I'm letting you all know the vibe is there. Everybody's ready. It's a good thing. I think it's some good things that you are going to enjoy watching and seeing. For post presser, I do want to get into veteran wide receiver Terry McLaurin spoke at the podium, as well as veteran defensive lineman Jonathan Allen. Some of these, especially Terry's is a little longer, but I think it's important to hear from them as veterans that were on the roster and have been with the team for, a while now, have been through quite a few changes with the organization. And you all have an opportunity to hear some of the excerpts from their press conference that I thought were very important points. First up, let's check out this first clip from Terry McLaurin's press conference.
Terry, some of us have covered this organization for an awfully long time. Mm-hmm. You have been through a couple of different administrations.
Yeah.
Yes, Kime, you've been here 40 years. I get it. How different is the field, not just day one here, but through veteran mini camps? Because we kind of feel like there's a different vibe.
Yeah.
We've said it before, but the word's different, but for you, having experienced it, how different is it?
Definitely. I've experienced a lot in my going on 6 years here, and I could just at least speak to just this year, and I feel like the continuity from the top down is very clear what the objective is, bringing in good people who are really good at their job and are going to be competitors in what they do and bring their best selves to the building each and every day. I think that started from Mr. Harris and the ownership group, and I think that goes down to AP and DQ and our coordinators and the leaders on this team and our position coaches. So when you have that one voice, that one mission, I think it makes it very clear what the expectation is, and there's not a lot of deviation from that, because if you want to be a part of this team and this organization, you have to fit that mold or you probably won't be here. But I think the great thing about it is there's no favoritism. There's no, well, because you did this here or because you had this season last year. Like, we got guys and coaches from all over the place, but one thing they have is we have a lot of guys with experience, leadership, championship pedigree, and who are competitors who want to come in and make this organization better and win together. And I think you can feel that juice, and then when you have the opportunity just to come out here and compete, that's what you love to do. You don't have to really focus on a lot of the off-field stuff we may have had, but you get to focus on football and how you get better and try to earn your spot on this team. So it's been really fun getting to know the guys. Like I said a few times, like even the first few days in the spring, we really didn't even talk a lot of football. We just got to know each other, which is new, you know what I mean? We've even mixed up the locker room where I'm sitting next to Forbes and some of the linemen, and usually you stay with your position group, but I think it helps just that continuity process a little quicker where you have those moments to spend time with guys you may not spend time with otherwise because they're not in your position room. So I could just tell we have a group of guys that are gelling well and enjoy spending time with one another, and also like to grind. And we set standards before ourselves as a team where that's what you have to hold up to if you want to be a part of this team. And I think that's great because it holds everybody accountable. Then it's on myself and it's on the other guys to hold each other accountable and to that standard. As long as that doesn't deviate, then you have a good chance to have success.
Everything Terry McLaurin said, I see it. I see it. And hey, if you don't listen to me, listen to Terry McLaurin, okay? Listen to him, all right? Because I can see it. I'm there. I can see it. And so once Terry responded to Chick Hernandez's question in that way, I said, everything he's saying, I see that build. I see it all. Spot on. He's not blowing smoke. He's saying exactly what it is. And one of the things that he mentioned in another question was a pledge that they made on the team. Here's Terry explaining a little bit more about that pledge.
What was the pledge you guys wrote?
I'll probably try to keep most of it. within our team, but it was essentially along the lines of just what we're going to commit each and every day when we come out to this football field. Not only what we're going to do on the field, but off the field. How we're going to prepare our bodies, how we're going to prepare our minds, how we're going to hold each other accountable when those things may slip. And I think one of the things that stands out the most is just, like I kind of touched on, is you can't take that personally. I think we're all competing for jobs, we're competing for respect, we're competing for some guys' contracts. So everybody has an individual aspect to it. But when you bring the team, you put the team first and you put it in writing, it forces you to be accountable, honestly, because it's like, well, I agreed to that. I may have signed that, or I was part of putting those words together. So if I'm not out there upholding, whether it's finishing, whether it's taking care of my body, being accountable, like how can I expect our rookies to? And so I think that puts a good amount of accountability and pressure on our leaders, but also it forces the young guys and the guys who may, be here for a year, whatever. It's just, there's one voice and one sound that the team came up with outside of the expectation of the coaches or the organization, which I think is extremely powerful. I haven't really experienced anything necessarily like that, where the guys have come up with something like that, and it was just really cool to see everybody's ideas and how they view leadership, how they view team building, and what's important to having success. And obviously we know that doesn't mean anything if we don't live up to those standards, which that's part of the pledge, but also the wins and losses are a big part of that as well. And but I think that's obviously the big picture, the wins and the losses. That's why we're all here, to win. But there's things underneath winning and losing that contribute to winning and losing, if that makes sense. And I feel like there's a very, very clear set of standards that we've put forward.
Look, I have, like many of you watching the show, have been in business for a very, very long time. And when I heard Terry mention the pledge, I immediately was like, goosebumps. All right. Because that is something that is so imperative in a teaming environment. And those that have been with Coaching from the Couch, the Washington Commanders update, for all the years now, when I started, you all know I will go on a rant. And I will go on a leadership rant. I'll bring out some diagrams and everything else. So I'm not going to do that on this episode. But what I will say is, there are some tremendous leaders in that building, because when you hear of again, results-oriented, outcome-oriented, a document that you all have contributed to say, this is what I'm going to bring to this football field every day, that's exactly what you want to hear. That's exactly what you want to hear. Again, I can see it. But then hearing from a Terry McLaurin, knowing that it's real and they have things, a document that no one told them what to write, no one told them what to say. They did that as a collective. That's good stuff. Now, Jonathan Allen at the podium. Let's get into a bit of that. Jonathan Allen talked a bit about Dan Quinn. Check this out.
Hey, John. To your left. You talked in off-season workouts about how the vibe and everything was great. What is it about what Dan Quinn has brought to this group in terms of being a leader of men?
Yeah, it's been a lot. I mean, I think he brings a lot of competition, amongst the guys. He's going to challenge us every day, and he brings a lot of energy. So as a coach that, when he first came, I asked a lot of guys around the league about him, and I haven't had one bad thing said about him. Everyone who's ever played for him has loved it, and so far I've been loving it.
And if you don't listen to me, listen to Jonathan Allen. Because look, like Jonathan Allen, everyone that I have spoken with across the NFL, they love Dan Quinn. They love Dan Quinn. And if we're being real honest, and we're having the moment of transparency, which that we do in the Coaching from the Couch series, there was some questions about Dan Quinn. Is this the right choice? We don't listen. And we'll probably never forget that Super Bowl 51. We probably won't. But look, I think the thing is the lessons learned from that. People love him. And I can see why. Again, these are words, but once you see it from the human, actual actions from the individual, then you say, okay, yeah, I absolutely understand why people were like, I'm coaching with Dan Quinn. I'm playing for Dan Quinn. Absolutely. Wholeheartedly can totally see it. Again, if you don't listen to me, you don't want to listen to CWall, that's fine. I can deal with that. But listen to Jonathan Allen. But I would like for you to listen to both of us. That would make me feel better. Any Dan Quinn concerns, y'all can, all the coaches aren't going to save the world because everybody's out here trying to win the same thing, right? A Super Bowl. But it's a good thing. It's all good stuff. Now, if you all have been following me, if you follow me at CWall SE, if you're following me on Facebook, you know that I have referred to this day, training camp day 1, as the first day of school. So once I hear the players, everybody else say, I'm like, oh, you all think it's the first day of school too? Me too.
How much does this feel to you like the first day of school? Not just the work, but the dynamic with some of the new guys here.
Oh, it definitely feels like the first day of school. The first day of training camp is always exciting and fun to get out here with the guys for the first time. Yeah, man, I'm just really trying to go out there and put my best foot forward, moving forward, and, we're excited about what the season could be.
It's definitely exciting like the first day of school. I had an outfit laid out and everything. Now, with Johnny Newton being back, I do think it's important to share this clip about what Jonathan Allen said about Johnny Newton. I think the entrance of Johnny Newton has made some question Jonathan Allen, whether he would be there, whether he's still needed and necessary for the team. We'll get to that later. I think let's not get to that later. It's yes in all of the above for myself, but that's not what we're talking about right now. But yes, they're all needed in that defensive line up front. But I do think this clip is a good one to make sure I share in this episode.
Not surprising, but excited, Obviously, he's a great player. We got him super high in the draft, and I'm excited to see what he can do out there. So he looked good. They're trying to take it slow with him, obviously. You don't want to throw him out there too soon, but from what I've seen, he looks really well.
What's your sense of how he's going to be able to help complement you and Duran and the other pieces on the line once he's ready to get going?
Man, I don't think it's him complimenting us. I think it's all of us complimenting each other, you know what I mean? I'm trying to help out Clee's trying to help out Payne and vice versa. So he's definitely going to fit in really well. He loves to work out. He loves to do the little things right, and he loves to work. And, for me, once I see that, that's all I need to see.
And again, if you don't listen to me, listen to Jonathan Allen. When Johnny Newton was sad at rookie camp because he could not practice and he wanted to get out there, I said that is just a very, very good sign. So, Commanders fans, we're at the end of this episode. We're at the end of this episode, and I just want to tell you, more to come. More to come. If you will be at any of the open fan events, say hello. Please say hello. I would love that. So please say hello. I would absolutely love that. That would be very cool. Drop in the comment section if you will be there. But look forward to a great outing and event. I am even anxious to see all that the organization has in store for the fans at those various open days. Let me also say, I know that some fans were not happy about the limited open practices, if you will. I have a different thought on that. And that's just, this organization and this franchise has been through a lot. Building team successfully is very difficult. It's hard. And I think that while this very new team, because yes, while there are some that are returning, it's still new because of the difference in the, even in the business side of things. We know there's a lot happening and has changed on the business side of things. So it's different still in many different ways, that if you're not at all the practices, or if you're not at as many practices, then hopefully Commanders fans and supporters or onlookers, hopefully that makes it even more fun for you on game day. If you don't know, I'm from this area, Bowie Television, from Bowie, Maryland. So this area deserves to have some fun on football Sundays. And if you're not there for all of the excitement during training camp, then that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to limit that time so that the team can really get heads down and work and grind and be ready for week 1 and beyond. So I know that many were upset about not so many training camp days, but I think it'll be a good thing in the long run. I really do. So you all, I hope by now you've subscribed to the channel. And if not, go ahead and subscribe, and totally understand if you're not ready yet. But I do hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'll be doing more. I'll be sure to continue to check in to give you the exclusive insights from Washington Commanders training camp. This is CWall signing off until the next Coaching from the Couch Washington Commanders update. I'll be talking to you all again soon.